Hello everybody, this is Wednesday 13. You may know me from the Murderdolls. You are watching Metalshop TV. Well, basically, I mean, anytime an anniversary comes up, 20-year anniversary, the 20-year anniversary was coming up and I knew that was happening, and unfortunately Jordison passed away, and so it made even the 20th anniversary even more so kind of just bittersweet kind of thing. So it's you know, so it was time to celebrate that album, but we were going to celebrate it with Joey's memory and place of that. So, so yeah, man, it's been really fun to go out and play these songs and see the reaction from the fans, because the older fans are still there, but now they've brought their kids, and their kids have grown up listening to the music, and I was never expecting that, and that's a great thing to see. Oh, it was always fun time first, always. And that was what made that band stand out, was that we had our sense of humor out front. We liked a little bit of comedy with the tragedy, and we wore our heroes on our sleeves. We grew up idolizing bands like Motley Crue and Kiss, and hearing about the lifestyle and everything, the sex, drugs, rock and roll, and we went for it, and we did it really good. Uh, 6 weeks of insanity. It was but it taught me to be the front man that I am, and taught me how to engage with an audience, especially an audience that's ready to hate you. And like you said, Iron Maiden audience isn't just a normal audience, it's an Iron Maiden audience, and it's mainly guys. It's pretty much all guys. Murderdolls were a band that appealed to more girls than guys with the image, it seemed. But just to see that sort of look, and during that time, there was no resurgence of hair metal or anything. We were the only, it was just the exact opposite of what Iron Maiden stood for. So to come out in front of sometimes 80,000 people, these were, you know, Olympic arenas and stadiums, and it was terrifying. The first 2 weeks I felt defeated, but the last 4 weeks I was able to capture that audience, and I even do it tonight on stage. I do the exact same thing I did, where I get the crowd to say one word, a chant, say the word die. I learned how to I would watch Iron Maiden work the audience. And so for me, it was tough, but it was something I would never change for anything. And it taught me to be the front man that I am. I'm never afraid of any audience now because of that experience. Instantly. Meeting Joey was such an odd thing. That's why I went with my feelings on it, because this guy out of nowhere contacts me. I like the music I've heard because he heard of my band, and I only knew the name Slipknot from magazines. No internet. Nobody was really into doing the internet. It was just magazines. And when I first met him and we sat down and he sort of listened to my songs, and it was an instant chemistry, instant friendship. I felt like we knew each other a whole lifetime together. And at the time I was still doing my band, and I knew this was a gamble to do this, It could be a disaster, it could not work, but I believed in it, and I knew there was something special about it, and it worked. And Joey was the guy who could play. When I write songs, I hear drums in my head, and I'd played with drummers for years, and they were good. Joey was the drummer in my head, and he could instantly play what I heard, and he could hear, and it was just this instant thing. If he was here today, we could write you a song now. We could do that. I've never been able to do that with anyone else, ever. Joey was really down to earth, very, he loved his fans. If he saw fans hanging outside the bus, if he saw anyone waiting for an autograph, he would always go out of his way to go do that. Fan-wise, as a friend, he was cool. He didn't ever use his status in a band to, oh, I'm this, I do that. He never used it that way. It was always a cool thing, and that's why, and I guess the thing that made our friendship really well was I wasn't a fan of Slipknot. I knew of them. I respected them as a band, but I was never a fan, so I never looked at him as someone like that. We could be friends, and I think that made Joey feel good because he knew I wasn't playing with him because he was just in Slipknot. It was just we had a bond, and it wasn't so yeah, he was just a really, really down-to-earth guy, and I miss him a lot. I think I just said make the best out of it. You know, having Joey's Slipknot status made Murderdolls instantly, people paid attention, and it was the first time they'd ever taken their mask off, so that was even more focus on it. And I knew that once Murderdolls stopped, where would I go? What would I do? And I just said, I got to keep doing this. So I just kept writing music, and I went to my label because I was signed as Murderdolls, and I had to go to the label, and I said, I'm going to do Wednesday 13 solo. And they said, we don't want that. And then another label came to me and said, we want your solo album. And I went back to the label and said, do you want it now? And they said, yes. So that's how I got my first album, because they said no, and then someone else wanted it. It was really weird. But I was able to build a solo career, and now 2025 will be 20 years of Wednesday 13 solo, and I'll have my 10th record out next year. So. That's a good question. I'm excited to see where it goes too. I started demoing some songs before this tour, just see what came out of my head, and I have like 6 or 7 ideas, and it's a little more Murderdolls-ish, I guess, because I've been playing these songs, and it's got more of a free-spirited rock and roll punk, so that's sort of in my brain again. So the music's sort of reflecting that. Will it stay that way? I don't know. That's what's fun for me, is that I can do whatever I want, and I don't ever try to do one thing. I just write what I write and let it come out. If I ever try to think about something and focus on it, I feel like it's not as good. So this next record is going to be special to me. It's the 10th one. I have to make it. It can't just be the 10th album. It's got to be. This one has to be as good as the first one for me, and I want to make it like that. So I'm gonna put a lot of work into it, and when we get home from this tour, I'm gonna spend all the time we have, probably up till end of August, writing and recording this album. That was more of a Joey call, you know, because Slipknot being a band that's not a comedy, not a funny band, you know, being more of a serious, and Joey, coming out of the fourth Slipknot record, he didn't know the future of that band, his future or their future as a whole. That could have been the end of Slipknot, and maybe his mind, he thought maybe it was. So when Murderdolls, he thought maybe this may become his main band. So he wanted to incorporate a little heavier drumming, a little more serious, and we'd also grown up a bit. That'd been a long time between the first and second record. You know, we were older. I was going through a divorce. It was a lot of real people problems that we didn't have on the first album. So it was easy to write personal things, and but that was something that he wanted it to be a little heavier. He wanted the drumming to be, because he did all the drumming on the record as well, he wanted it to be a little heavier, just in case Murderdolls became the main band. That was always his idea. Even on the first album, they didn't know if Slipknot was going to survive the second record. Everyone knows this now, but then they didn't know. You know, so yeah, that's basically the reason. Old school movies, my favorite horror movies, Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 1 and Part 2, they're like together. I don't really separate them because I seen them at the same time. I watched them back to back on VHS when I was much younger, and so those are my two favorites. 3, it's a toss-up between The Shining, the original Shining, or it's hard to say. Dawn of the Dead is my favorite zombie movie. So that's maybe my three. As far as newer movies, I have yet, like mid-90s, I just kind of stopped watching horror movies. Even like Scream was the last new horror movie I had seen. I've seen newer stuff, but I don't really explore into the newer horror stuff. I hear people all the time, you need to see this, and this. I would say the most recent horror movie in the last 5 or 6 years was, I don't know the director's name, even if I did know it, I wouldn't say it correctly. The movie Mandy with Nicolas Cage was a really bizarre fever dream, made me feel uneasy, and having Nicolas Cage in it was just an extra thing to it. It really wasn't him that made the movie good, it was just it made me feel uneasy, and that's what horror movies should be. So that's the only newer movie I could recommend. Yes, my first real, I guess, concert, I played a birthday party when I was 15. In someone's basement. So that really wasn't the real first show. Second show I played in my high school. That really didn't count. But the first real show, I was 16 years old. I was a rhythm guitar player in a band, and it was at a place called O'Malley's. My band was called Psycho Opera, and I had blonde hair down to here, and I played a white Ibanez, and we were terrible, but I was having the time of my life, and that led to where I am today. Just the feelings, I'll never forget being on stage, being nervous and just going out, and I heard the hi-hat of the first song, and to this day, that sound, that first 4 sounds of the hi-hat going into the first song is a switch for me. It switches on this persona that I do, and the nerves go away. So it's like it's something I've never forgot is from that first show. The sound of the hi-hat is like a engine turning on, on, whether it's fast 4 or slow 4. I think the reason I started making music and singing about what I sing about is because I loved horror movies. So I think naturally I'd want to try to make horror movies, and at least make movies the way I used to like movies. Like the newer movies are just, they don't appeal to me. This is why I go and watch them. But the older films from the 80s and just the overall atmosphere of that is what I would like to recreate. So if I wasn't doing music, I would be trying to make movies, or I would work behind the scenes in music. I just love everything. I've got the best education in the world by touring and being a musician and meeting people and just traveling the world. I'm going to be in Transylvania tomorrow because of this music that I play. It's a crazy thing, you know. So yeah, I try to love and embrace every moment of it.